Life for us is constantly learning. If someone say, I know everything, you don't know anything.
It is not easy to constantly learning, always learning. When you look back, do you have anything that you recommend people would say if you had to start from scratch? What would you tell your younger self?
Well, first of all, it's never too late to learn something new. What past is past. Now is we're in the future. So I could have done this, I could have done that. I could have invested in Netflix 10 years ago. I would be super rich now. I could have bought shares in the cryptocurrency, Bitcoin 15 years ago. I will be a billionaire now. I could have, yeah, but now we are here in this current time, and then we utilize what we have. We look at what we can do, what we want to do, and spend 110% of our efforts to do it. Let's say someone has MIT on their resume, and someone has high school on the resume. This worked for 10 years, this worked for 10 years. But this high schooler is better than this MIT person. It's not only about what's your original education, your experience, your personality, how you behave. Are you a person who's helpful? Are you a person who doesn't want to be asked questions? I asked my manager, for example, one of the person, why you fired this person? Why you laid her off? She's pretty good. She's not very interactive.
She doesn't communicate?
She doesn't communicate. She doesn't want to help.
Today, I have a very special guest, someone in the United States for 15 years, starting his life from scratch. And now he's very successful tech professional and also helping lots of people to achieve their dream to breaking into IT. A good professional, mentor, and what else I can say? I would say very successful at what you do at your work, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so.
So though that when you want to be successful in tech, when people say tech, they always think about coding, programming, cybersecurity, all the hardcore skills.
Mm-hmm.
And many people, they make the mistake that they think that only being very technical, it's going to be enough. And then they neglect the soft skill part in terms of communication, marketing, which you market yourself, office politics, negotiations. There's lots of skills that you have to learn from that perspective as well. I think combination is making people successful. And it's very rare to see someone technically extremely good at the same time, someone in terms of leadership, soft skills, communication is also excellent. So I would say you are a very well-rounded person and you are very successful. You were teaching, mentoring lots of individuals to break into IT. And then it's been, I would say, maybe 18 months, 1.5 years since 2023, beginning of 2023, this big tech layoff started by, I think Elon Musk was the first person that everybody was not able to do it. And once Elon Musk was, okay, I'm going to lay off 80% off the Twitter. And then just like Microsoft, Meta, all these companies start following, Amazon, mass tech layoff. It's not slowing down. It did slow down, but it's still, I think, going on. And I would say probably since tech bubble, the dot-com bubble, this is the first time tech workers are really having a hard time in the market. And despite your success at your work, you recently also got laid off.
Yeah.
And how did you feel? What's the feeling when you get laid off?
Well, I wouldn't say it's an easy feeling because you would feel that you are giving 110% of your energy to your job and you're being very successful. They like your work and everything. But then these companies, they look at you as employee number. This employee number making this much.
Transaction.
Exactly. So they want to cut the cost. Like when you mentioned Elon Musk, he came, he got the list of employees, how much they make. Okay, sort them by the salary, those top 80% out. What did he do? He destroyed Twitter for a while. When he laid off those employees, suddenly, overnight, restricting their access to their laptops or their work, the entire company, he was bringing it down. And then they realized their mistake. Eventually, they came back to those employees. We want you back because they actually need them. It's not about this employee is number what is out. We need this employee to do this. Without him, the company is not functioning.
When you got the news, is that just over email or it's your manager calls you and say you're out? Or how did it work?
Actually, it was funny. I was texting my manager, telling her I want to apply for vacation in December. I was literally looking at the vacation. I got the package, just waiting for her to tell me, okay, you're confirmed, to click on book. Then she called me back. She said, I have bad news. And she told me the news, and I literally could hear her crying when she was telling me, because I'm her favorite employee. But it was out of her budget. She said they gave me the list of names, and it's not in my power to say yes or no.
When you got that news, so you were putting 110%, one of the best employee in the company, despite your success and contribution, they let you go.
Yeah.
And what is the emotion associated to it? Betrayal? You feel? Probably.
Yes.
Anger?
Mm-hmm.
So all this, it is pretty, I would say, negative emotions. It's not joy, excitement, motivation. What happened that night? Like, did you talk to your wife? How does the family process work? You guys are, as a family, are pretty successful, both like a power couple. Your wife is also a tech professional. And you have certain incomes, you have certain spendings, right? Yeah. And all of a sudden, one income is completely gone. So from that perspective, like, how do you guys manage this communication at work? I mean, in your family?
Well, when they laid us off in our company, they laid off 40% of the company.
Wow.
But they gave us 2 months. So it wasn't like today you're off, tomorrow you're not working. We have 2 more months. So I guess we were one of the lucky ones that we got.
Very rare.
Yeah.
They give you 2 months buffer so you can look for a job. And
because the way, if they fire someone for underperforming, they fire them overnight. But when we were overperforming, they appreciated us, so they give us extra time to find a job within this time. And then even during that time, when I was telling my manager, I have an interview I'm going with, it's a conflict with this meeting, she would tell me, go for the interview. It's your first priority right now. I want you to get a job. So she was very understanding, and she was amazing. I enjoyed working with her for over more than 2 years. I would say the feeling I got, it was more of a disappointment than anger or a sadness. It's a disappointment in the company itself. They look on numbers only rather than performance. And then I started to look at who got laid off. I look at the teams, because I was an architect, automation architect in the company. I look at the teams who got laid off. In this team I worked with for a year, for example, there are 2 testers. One of them is a senior. She knows what she's doing. The other one is very junior. They laid off the senior one, leaving the junior there. Why? Because this is getting paid more than this, obviously.
So the decision-making process for a company is basically whoever making more than certain threshold.
I guess so, yeah.
It's like a highest salary and just cut from there.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you were the highest performing person.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of counterintuitive. So like you would expect, if you're a highest performer, your job is safer. But during this big tech layoff, your highest performer, that's why you get paid the highest. That's how they look at it. And they want to get rid of the people who is getting paid more than anybody else.
That's what it looked like in my company, and I guess in every company.
Would you try to say, hey, listen, like my salary, for example, I don't know how much you make. I'm just going to come up with the artificial number. I make $180,000. I'm okay. Just pay me $100K. I'm fine. I understand the market. I want to work for you. I love this company. I love this project and the team. Would you guys still willing to keep me? Have you tried this, or do you think that's an option for you?
It's not an option. I wouldn't even try that.
Why?
Devaluing myself in this case.
Okay.
If they don't want to pay me this much, someone else will want to pay me this much. The thing is, some people, they get frustrated. They go to market. I know some of my colleagues who went to market back then, and it took them a long time to get a job. We got laid off on September last year, and one of my colleagues just found a job now.
So it's been what, like almost a year now?
No, about 7 months. 6 months, 7.
So it's 6-7 months with no income.
So the problem here, that job was completely remote. And if people are fixating on finding remote, these remote jobs are almost extinct now.
So it's hard to find remote jobs now?
So if you live in this town that doesn't have companies, when you search for a job around you on the map, there are no tech companies in this town. You're not going to find a job because all these tech companies, they want you to work in the office, either hybrid or full-time in the office. Remote jobs are rare. When I went to market 2 years ago, I found my job the same day I went to market. 2 offers on the same day. It wasn't difficult, and it was all remote. Everything was remote because of COVID, as you know.
So why do you think, I remember pre-COVID, before COVID, I would say maybe 10%, 20%, if you're lucky, you get a remote job. It was a luxury. Like if you get like 1-2 days work from home, that company is doing you a big favor.
Yeah.
And during the pandemic, I was like 100% remote, and company was like, oh, actually remote is good. They start promoting remote jobs. Why they're asking employees to come back to office? There's more expenses, right? They have to pay for rent.
Yeah.
Employees have to commute. Why do you think they're doing that?
I'm guessing a big part of it is a trust issue. So they don't trust you're doing your job the right way. Let's say you're a good employee, you're doing your job the right way, but not everyone is like you. And this enables some people to get multiple jobs. You can, remote working from home, I work for this company and this company. It's easy. You can do that.
So let me share one of my experience. I had a guy who worked for me for 6 years. Not the best employee, but he did his job. And one day we were at a meeting, Zoom meeting, and he unmuted himself and started talking. Okay, so, and we're listening. We don't connect what he's talking about. He's talking about different projects. He's mentioning different person's name, what he did. And then we all sitting in there. I assumed that he had multiple, like at least 2 work. One of them was us. So he unmuted the wrong laptop. Okay.
That would be embarrassing.
So you're supposed to talk to this company. So he unmuted himself in this company, which is our company, talking. I was like, what the hell? I was paying him like $120,000 per year. And I was like, okay, I don't think it's illegal, but we're not really big company. We're small business versus Accenture and Google and CGI. Cannot afford this. So I also gave him like some times to find a job. He said, listen, I can't do it anymore. And he didn't say anything. He didn't say a word. He's like, okay, thank you for everything. He's gone because he knew that he was doing that. I do think during the pandemic, it became really mainstream. I think also it was kind of it's not illegal, but also I feel like it was not fair for people genuinely want to work hard and they don't even have one job. And there are people doing 20-30% of the work and they have multiple jobs, bringing $200,000-$300,000. I think that became pretty mainstream. So companies are asking people to come to office so they cannot do multiple jobs, I guess.
I'm guessing this is one of the reasons, yes. Yeah. And that person you were mentioning, you gave him time to look for another job. He has another job. He's been working there.
Yeah, still, we have many years of relationship. We don't have thousands of people. So I know everyone in this company and I know everybody's family.
Yeah.
It's also hard when you have a personal relationship. If you don't have personal relationship, it's much easier. But the thing is, I know every single person here and their family, their kids. It was kind of sad, but I don't blame people. Everybody wants to make more money. So what can I do?
Yeah.
So when you get laid off, did it hurt your self-esteem, right? Sometimes you question yourself, I could have done better. Am I not good enough? Did it affect your confidence?
Not at all, because I know it was not because of my performance. If I get laid off because of a performance issue, which they told me it's not because of performance. The company literally cutting the cost because they're losing money. They developed a product they were supposed to sell, and after 1 year constantly on this product, they couldn't sell it to anyone. So they decided to cut the company by half, literally.
Many people, they think this big tech layoffs is because of artificial intelligence automating your job. And it sounds like you did not lose your job because of AI. You lose your job because your company was not making enough money.
Yeah.
So do you think that AI is affecting this big tech layoff so far, like other companies?
Not in our field, probably in other fields. When you call a bank right now, to get to talk to a real person, you will have to go through the AI.
That was always like that.
Well, now it's getting worse.
Press 1, press 2, press 3, press 0.
Try to call Amazon.
Okay.
I tried to call Amazon to talk to customer service. Literally, there is no option. I keep telling the AI I want to talk to a representative, and it refused to transfer me for about 15 minutes.
So one of the theory of people that this big tech layoff is because of AI, and I think most people talking about this has nothing to do with tech.
Yeah.
People in tech, they understand the AI is not eliminating any jobs yet in terms of software development, DevOps. I'm not sure about the business perspective, business analysts, user stories, things. I think still it requires lots of communication with the end client, users. So that's something that AI cannot do. Whether it's testers or developers, I don't think at all it's affecting. I believe the big tech layoffs has everything to do with high interest rate.
No, that's the market completely. Is the recession getting the worst of the higher interest rates right now, which I think is going to come down soon, because I've been watching the market closely and I see the migration when it started beginning of COVID, when everything became remote. I had some colleagues who started, okay, I live in Colorado. I want to go to live in paradise. So they move all to Florida or to Texas where there's no income tax.
Tech nomad. Yeah.
Now it started to be the opposite, by the way.
Oh.
Those people, they move to Florida, for example. I want to live on vacation. I had one of my colleagues, he literally said, now I live on vacation. He lives in Florida. But then people get laid off and then realize there are not so many jobs actually in Florida. And then when they find a job, they want them to go in the office. He had to move to Oregon. So it became, I have to go to the office. I have to get the job. After 6 months in the market, he couldn't find a job. He found it in Oregon, and then he had to move. And now people start to move out of Florida because before he can work from home, he can work from wherever you are. But now you have to go to the company, whether it's in New Jersey, New York, Oregon, California, wherever in the country.
I would say there's a couple hubs like Seattle area and San Francisco area, Bay Area. And I say DC area because of the government.
Yeah.
I know Texas. Anywhere else? Like there's a big tech market. Like
North Carolina. North Carolina is huge.
It's going back to like pre-pandemic. It was all tech hubs, right?
Yeah.
We have this concept called tech hub.
Yeah.
And during the pandemic, it became decentralized. No, oh yeah, you don't have to be in tech hub. You can be anywhere.
Yeah.
Now it's going back to tech hub actually.
Actually, yeah. Yeah. Because all these companies are required their employees to go back. Like even in my wife's example, she was working remotely and then they told her the company implement a policy. They have to go to the office. And the office is either New York area or somewhere in the South. And then she said, I don't want to go to the office. I don't want to move from here. But then after a few months in the market, she decided to contact the company. Actually, they contacted her again and they gave her a big offer to move somewhere else. And this is why we decided to move, because you have to go where your job is right now.
It's such a dramatic change. It's normal before the pandemic. Now we're going back. I think many people have this unrealistic expectation of, oh, you know, I'm going to go to Hawaii. I'm going to work from there. I remember in social media, it was really, there were lots of like a tech gurus, guys in the beach, right?
Yeah.
Only what you need is internet connection and a laptop. You can work anywhere, you know,
Yeah.
Bali, all this stuff. I think that's gone, it looks like.
That was about 85% of what the tech jobs are back then. Now it's the reverse, probably 10-15%.
10-15% remote job left.
Yeah.
So looking back, anything that you could have done better to not get laid off?
I was doing the best. I was one of the best.
So there's nothing you could do.
There's nothing I could do.
It's purely just companies losing money and
It's
they
just
cannot
numbers. But when you get laid off, first day, let's say, you get this disappointment, sadness, frustration. But then you have to get over it. And I got over it really quickly. I mean, immediately in the first day, I reactivated my Deed account, my Dice account, and my LinkedIn. I haven't actually worked on LinkedIn. I don't really do LinkedIn much, but then I started to look for a job immediately.
So when you say reactivated, it seems pretty easy for you. There are some people that are going to be really hurt.
Yeah.
And especially if they really worked hard for the company and did everything they could, put their 110%, 20%, and giving up their family time, contributing for the company and expecting loyalty from the company. Now the company says, you know, sorry, we cannot afford you. And I think it's a huge psychological, I would say, they will go through some depression and anger, right? So when you say, I reactivated myself the next day, like, is there anything that you can recommend for the people who got laid off, their motivation is down, they have anger with them?
Mm-hmm.
What would you recommend you do for yourself?
Right after that call, I opened my laptop, I opened my resume, start to update my resume, like immediately, within 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Within 5 minutes after the call, I updated my resume. And then I start working on my resume, added the skills that I learned in the past 2 years, because I haven't actually worked on the resume for 2 years. And I updated all the skills I learned, what I did, my responsibilities and all that, and use ChatGPT now to enhance your resume. It's a good thing to think about. I use ChatGPT a lot for everything.
Me too.
If I have a question, I use ChatGPT, not only related to work or anything. You have a question, ask ChatGPT. But you have to ask the right question,
Absolutely.
right prompt.
Absolutely.
So I updated my resume. I uploaded to dice.com, and then from the second day, I started applying for jobs. I reached out to some of my connections, my previous colleagues, from my previous jobs and all that, and then started to apply. I would say I got the job really quick, within 3 to 4 weeks from the date I started applying.
I believe, right, when you're in the tech market as a software engineer, so you might have MIT in your resume, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, after you work for certain companies, let's say 2-3 years later, it really become insignificant. I mean, it's cool that you have MIT or Harvard and Yale in your resume, but what's the hiring managers or companies are most interested in is your previous experience. Which company do you work for? What did you do? And I assume that the time that when you go to market, big tech companies were laying off people.
Yeah.
And people with their resumes, Google engineers, Meta engineers, and this FANG companies, now it's Meng, I guess, all these big tech companies. How do you compete with someone that has Google in their resume? And I don't think that because we live in this area, I don't think you have a name in the resume that every single person in the world can recognize. So that's one thing. There's lots of really, really technical people with like great asset in their resume, which is like Google, Facebook, Meta, whatever. At the same time, the volume of people, I would say 10 times, 20 times more people when you apply for a job 2 years ago. So numbers got higher, competition got higher. So how did you find a job in 4 weeks? Like, what's your strategy for that?
So like you mentioned, let's say someone has MIT on their resume and someone has high school on their resume. This worked for 10 years, this worked for 10 years. But this high schooler is better than this MIT person. It's not only about what's your original education, your experience, your personality, how you behave. Are you a person who's helpful? Are you a person who doesn't want to be asked questions? And I asked my manager, for example, one of the person, why you fired this person? Why you laid her off? She's pretty good. She's not very interactive.
She doesn't communicate?
She doesn't communicate. She doesn't want to help. And this other person, she's all over the place. Like literally what she said. She's all over the place. She's doing good in communication, even though this person is better technically than this one. But this one is better for me because I can count on her to do what she's doing.
So how did you compete in that difficult market? The thing I want to ask specifically is this. Lots of people right now, they're saying, I applied for 1,000 jobs. I filled like 500 applications.
Yeah.
The recruiters are not calling me back. That is one problem. The second problem is recruiter called me and they ghosted me. After that, disappeared. So let's come down to the first one. Like, how did you, when somebody put a job position right now, in 3 hours, you're going to have 1,000 applications.
Pretty much.
How did you get called back from the recruiters that others are not getting called? Like, what did you do?
You have to have a good resume representing you. When you talk to a recruiter, you have to be precise what you're talking about. You have to be a good talker. Resume itself, and I saw a lot of people with really bad resumes. For example, there was a job referral. I referred they needed developers. And we have some of the best developers get laid off at the same time. I asked the dev lead, send me your resume. I'm going to submit you for this position. He sent me his resume was one page.
Developer lead.
Yes. His resume is 1 page. It doesn't tell anything about him. The resume is empty. Probably one of the worst resumes I ever saw.
From a dev lead.
And he is a very smart person.
But the problem is when you check online, read these blogs, and they said, your resume has to be short and precise. How many pages the resume should be ideal for you? How many pages is your resume, for example?
3 pages.
3 pages.
Yeah, because people, they look for certain skills in your resume. If you don't write it down, they don't think that you are the right fit. So they won't contact you.
What if the people want to have like 7-page resume? Do you recommend that?
7 is too much. You have to optimize. You have to optimize, not too short, not too long, just enough.
So when you put your resume in, I highly doubt, let's not doubt, it's clear. When you have 1,000 application for one job position, I don't think the recruiter is going through 1,000 resume one by one, which is like, whether it's ATS or AI kind of sorting the resume out. Is there anything that you do to be visible to the recruiters?
Most of those recruiters, they use an algorithm to scan through the resumes before they actually view it. So this algorithm, they will go through the resume. It will have to search for certain keywords, how much it will match with these keywords, it will bring it up. So
like a search engine optimization kind of thing?
Exactly. They use AI too. If they don't get all these resume, from this 1,000 resume, this AI will give them 100.
No, but the problem is this, right? Just like you use ChatGPT for your resume.
Yeah.
I mean, for updating it, obviously, you do the groundwork. And now the problem is, like many people, they go to market, the first thing in their mind is, used to be you have to pay somebody like $1,500 to update your resume. Now it's like a few bucks with the AI resume builder, and you have AI building resume, and you have AI sorting resume, and these two AIs is fighting each other. Where the hell, like, I am human, the recruiter's human. Now AI is like, how do you solve this?
A lot of companies, they will open the job listing for a certain amount of time and then they will close it right away. I'm working right now, literally the project I'm working on, it's all about recruiting and hiring and all that. So I see, like, when we post a job, for example, we tell this job will be posted for this many hours or this many days, and then get removed. So if you look for remote jobs, for example, if you're looking for a remote job and then you see this job was posted yesterday by Walmart, for example, I wouldn't apply for it. It's a waste of my time.
If it's posted yesterday,
even if it was posted like 9 hours ago or 8 hours ago.
Okay, so hold on. I am in the market. I'm looking for a job. So you're recommending me sitting in front of a computer and constantly scanning?
Every 15 minutes.
Every 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I kind of can relate because this is my real experience. Right? Back then, I was working for a medical tech company and I want to go to market, look for a job. I applied for a couple, never get back. And I'm not sure Indeed still has it. Indeed had this functionality back then. It shows like in the red line, like a red label says like this many new posting. I go to work very early normally.
Yeah.
So my thing is like I went to my office like 8 o'clock in the morning because I want to drink my coffee, get ready for the work. It's my kind of get ready for my day. Yeah. So I was drinking my coffee. I see this red comes up like 3 job postings and I open immediately. Like it was like one literally 15 minutes ago. Mm-hmm. So I applied. The lady, the HR from CGI, she called me right there on the spot.
Yeah.
She's like, I like your resume. So actually I got offer from that job. I kind of relate what you said. So still, it's a good strategy.
When I see a job was posted, like when it says posted moments ago, most likely going to get a reply either by email or a call from a recruiter about that job posting. And I notice a lot of jobs will have the same job, multiple companies fighting for it. A lot of vendors are fighting for the exact same position. There is one position by a company called LPL Financial, posted September for automation architect. They are still calling me now. I literally had a call yesterday for this position in LPL Financial. I told that lady, if they haven't found anyone since September until now, they're not going to find anyone. And it's remote. That job is remote.
So you're saying it's a waste of time?
It's a waste of time. They called me. I got so many recruiters. At least 30 companies called me about this exact same position.
Okay.
And I didn't get to interview.
Some companies, I feel like they're like, so there's a phenomenon now. These companies just constantly updating their job positions, the same job positions.
Yeah.
And you apply, they said it's closed, but position is open. They're collecting resumes. I don't know why. Maybe they're getting ready. Maybe after the election, if they're thinking the market is going to bounce back, they want to have a handful of resumes ready to kind of fire. I don't know, like fire means that start looking for candidates, but there are some companies, they're not hiring at all, but they're putting position in there. Maybe it's like they want to show we're growing.
Probably. And if it's not like a legit company, sometimes some of the companies, they just collect resumes and then they sell it to someone else. You never know.
So let's say I'm a recruiter. I call you and I said, what do you do now? So I'm interested in your current job.
Yeah.
And you tell me that you got laid off. So it's always this psychology. If somebody is already having a job, that person is more attractive than the somebody don't have a job. And when recruiter call you, how did you handle that part? I got laid off. Were you honest with them or what did you say?
So you get laid off is completely different than getting fired. If you get fired, then you're underperforming. You get laid off, it doesn't mean you're underperforming.
So you were honest and you just said?
I was honest. I was telling exactly the truth, what happened with us. We were developing the software, company couldn't sell it. They decided to cut the staff, go and start from the highest salaries. This is what happened. And nobody had to complain about it.
I would say there are some really, really technical people and just so technical, but the thing is the lack of human communication, storytelling. And that I would say is when a recruiter call you and say, why are you looking for a job or what happened to your current job? Instead of just saying, I'm unemployed, I got laid off, you have a compelling story.
Yeah.
Saying our project, we're losing money after 1 year of development. Company didn't make money at all. Company was losing money as well. So they decided to cut this project. That's why I laid off. So it's the story behind that humans can relate. Even the recruiter calling you, they might get laid off one day, right? So when you tell them a compelling story, I would say, first of all, you establish trust. So when you're vulnerable, sometimes vulnerable people, they kind of trigger more empathy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the third, like you're being honest, which is a good thing. So you're a reliable person, I would say. Probably that's why they kind of move forward to submit your resume.
I would say so. If you just be brief with what you're saying, I'll get laid off, and then you stop. Why you get laid off? You have to explain why you get laid off. What happened? What is the story behind it? Like you said, telling the story behind it, that recruiter himself, he got laid off before, or he would expect this would happen to him or to her anytime in the future.
So with that being said, is there any common mistakes people make when they're looking for a job in the market, especially in this challenging time? When I say challenging time, I would say in past 10 decades, I would say this is like the slowest IT market, though I think that it's going to open up next year. But what are the common mistakes people might make?
First, not updating the resume correctly. This is one of the mistakes, the biggest mistake I talked about earlier. And then going to market with only what they know without reviewing some of the common interview practices, some of the stuff they knew before, but they forgot. So you have to review. You have to go study again. Let's say start review your notes if you had notes before. Because like, for example, I knew Java and then I work in C#. And then I forgot a lot of stuff in Java. I can do it in C# now, but I forgot how to do it in Java, even though the two languages are similar, but there are some minor differences. So if you go for a job interview with Java and then you try to do it in C#, it doesn't work. You write the code in C#. So you have to review, study before you go to market, or actually go to market and study during that time. One of the things people are not constantly applying, like I apply today, don't apply tomorrow, or apply in the morning and then apply in the afternoon. Applying for a job is a full-time job. You have to sit constantly in front of the computer, apply. You don't have computer, you have the app on your phone. Look, refresh for your search every 10 minutes. There are new jobs. If you apply for this job right now, you're more likely to get a call from a recruiter. If you apply for this job in the afternoon, they most likely found or talked to 30, 40, 50 people. They're not going to call more.
So even though a recruiter gets 1,000 applications, the maximum people they're going to call is like 30, 40 people.
Yeah, they only need in one or two.
Maybe even less.
Yeah.
Maybe less. So it's interesting. Let's write it down. So you said something very important. Looking for a job is a full-time job.
Yes.
Do full-time. Don't do it morning, click couple, applications, after a couple applications. You have to constantly look for it. Install the app on your phone and apply through that. But some people, they recommend change your resume based on the job description because it's not exactly what you do, but you're comfortable. So it's where to highlight in your skill set. It's not like you're lying, you know the stuff, but you're only highlighting the part that is important for this company, right? Which is so factual. Do you recommend that to like change their resume based on the applications, based on the job positions, or you just want to apply thousands of jobs?
Some people, they recommend that, and you can technically use AI, ChatGPT, Copilot to do that. Just post, this is a job description, and this is my resume. Update my resume to match
this job,
my skills with the job description. It can do it for you. But I would think for myself, from my personal perspective, this is a lot of time consuming for one job posting that you might get a call or not about it.
You just say something also very important. You said you have to refresh your skill set. So let's say you were good at Java. In this current project, you were working on C#. You forget a little bit of Java. And now you're applying. There's lots of jobs that require Java. And it could be different tool. It could be Selenium versus Playwright. It could be some other technologies as well. So in this case, isn't it stressful to try to refresh your knowledge while you're under stress? You have financial obligations. You're applying for a job. It's not rainbow sunshine. It's also not easy to handle rejection when you apply lots of jobs and people just pass on you. It feels bad. Based on financial stress, the market stress, and also on top of that, you have to learn new skill set or refresh your knowledge. How do you do that? What's your recommendation for people in that stage?
If the market requires these new skill sets, go learn it. You know Java, but now Java, for example, is not really the language of choice for a lot of companies. Say they go with C#. Go learn C#. It's not difficult to change your knowledge from one language to another because the logic is the same. It's just the prompts, the commands, it's a little bit different. So life for us is constantly learning. If someone say, I know everything, you don't know anything.
It is not easy to constantly learning, always learning. So we're humans, right? Sometimes you want to chill.
Yeah.
You want to take your kids to the playground. You want to have a vacation, which is very human. During the stress of in the market looking for a job, on top of that, learning something is pretty difficult. But I think being a jobless is more difficult. Getting rejected is more difficult. Going to an interview, look like a dumbass is also very difficult.
Yeah.
I think if I had choice to choose difficult, being like I have to put the effort to study, even I have to pull all night, all weekend. I don't know, go to a cabin in the mountain, lock myself up for 1 week, just refresh my knowledge is not easy, but it's easier than getting rejected, have no job, and also having financial issues while your family depends on you, right?
Right.
So I would say I would rather choose work harder.
Well, you just mentioned chill, take your kids to playground, but get a job first and then you chill.
Absolutely. Lots of people, I don't think they're lucky enough to not getting laid off, right? They're not laid off yet.
Yeah.
Or hopefully they don't get laid off. But the thing is, I have this analogy of especially military people. You develop your skills or your arsenal when you don't need it. For example, we have lots of nuclear bomb, right? We never need it, right? We never use it, but we still have it. Having a power that when you don't need it is good, because when you actually need it, you might not have enough time.
Right.
To gain that thing, it takes time to develop that, right?
Yeah.
So there are lots of people, they might face, whether it's because of economy, their performance, or that particular company's performance. You never know. In normal time, people still get laid off.
Yeah.
So what do you recommend them? Do you recommend them while they're working in a certain company, get comfortable, at the same time they have to invest in their education? Or just like chill until you get laid off and look for a job?
No, 100%. You have to always invest in yourself. You're not investing in the company, you're investing in yourself. When you learn new technologies, new tools, you're enhancing your chances to get a job in the future. For example, let's say right now, selenium for our testing is about 70% of the market. The other 30% of the companies, they use Cypress. Okay? So if you only know selenium, and you only need selenium at your current job, or the previous job, or probably the future job, then if you get laid off, you only get the 70% chance.
While the others have 100% chance.
Then there are 30%, you don't know it, you're eliminating these jobs from your search. But if you learn it, even though if you don't need it, then if you get laid off, you have the 100%.
I think the rule is the same. You gain the knowledge, skill set when you don't need it.
Yeah.
When you actually need it, you're ready. When you actually need it, you may not have time to develop. I think that's pretty profound.
I got some classes throughout the years that I didn't need. Upskill classes for Python, for JavaScript, for Cypress. Why not? It's a class, took me a few hours to learn. I go for it.
The problem is this. The thing is, when you are making, I would say, close to $200,000 per year as a software engineer in a company, you're not desperate, that's the problem. So nobody's pushing you around. You get comfortable. That's how big nations fail. That's how big companies fail. That's how big successful people fail, because they're comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And why would you push yourself when you're making $200K salary, having fun? Why would you just people don't have the urgency to learn? I know your entire family, including your brothers and your wife, all of you guys are tech employees making a very high income. How did you motivate yourself when you don't have to learn?
It's difficult. Sometimes I don't need to learn, but I want to learn. I don't have to, but I want to.
So you just have to push yourself.
I push myself. Yeah.
Okay. If you don't push yourself, somebody will push you.
Well, and then I get laid off and I don't know anything. I don't know the recent technologies. And then I will spend in the market a few months until I get the job. And I won't get the same job as I got the same salary before, because salaries back after COVID, it was crazy. They were offering very high numbers. Now these numbers are almost gone. Everything is down because it's a supply and demand. So demand was high, supply was low. This is why companies were competing for you. Now you are competing for the company. It's different. Now the supply is a lot, demand is low. So the companies, they get to put their offer. I give you this much. If you don't accept, someone else will.
So I have another question, right? Let's say you talk about you applied really fast. When the job is available, you applied immediately, you apply full time, which is good. Now you have higher chance that recruiter call you. But lots of people They got called from recruiters and they don't even pass the gatekeepers.
Yeah.
What did you do to convince recruiters to submit your resume to the client? Is there anything special that you did that others didn't? Or because you found a job in 4 weeks in the middle of this crisis. It's not easy. Anything that you'd recommend for people, how they handle recruiter or to be able to pass them?
Recruiter companies are different. If you talk about recruiter companies, there are a lot of companies in the market. Most of them are Indian companies based in India or based in US. So if you get a call from those recruiters, I find most of the time they are not very reliable. They say they're going to submit your resume, but you're not sure they actually submit your resume or not, even though sometimes you actually get a job through them, but don't put high hopes over them. But then when I get from a well-known recruiting company, Wipro or other companies that they are in the market for a long time, they have different types of recruiters. They give you some benefits. Those are more likely to get you into the job interview. They don't get you the job. They get you into the job interview. And then you get the job yourself.
So I would say for these consulting firms, they're transactional and they make commission based on you.
Yeah.
They got $70 per hour from the client. So they post a job for $40 an hour. They hire you for $40. They make $30 an hour. That's lots of money when you think about this 2,000 hours per year. If they make $30 per hour, so they're making like a $60,000 profit, take out the operational margin, something like that. I don't know, maybe 30, 40 grand per year per person. It's lots of money. It's a very profitable business. But I think what you recommend is there's mom and pop shops, and many of them, they're not even in the United States. Also, they're well-known firms. I would say, let's say Wipro that you mentioned, a bigger firm, like which one was that? Tata is also from India, but I think it's pretty reliable, like companies like Infosys. So you would spend your energy more towards the bigger consulting firm rather than the mom and pop shop. When you check their address, it's somewhere in the basement of somebody in Leesburg or Ashburn.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. They're more reliable. And if I get a call from American recruiter, I know they will get, if they say they're going to submit me, they submit me, they follow up, and they get me to interview.
I think some of our audience may not know that there are certain layers in the tech or job market that you have the client, which is, let's say, a Bank of America.
Yeah.
And you have the prime vendors that can directly work with the company like Wipro or, let's say, tax system, whatever.
Yeah.
And then, so they take the job, let's say, from $100 an hour from the prime vendor, from the client to the prime vendor. So prime vendor cuts $30, put $70 to the sub-vendors. And now sometimes sub-vendors are pretty known companies too. But when it comes to sub-sub, which is the companies we're talking about overseas, may not be even in the United States.
Yeah.
They're the one really saturating the market, and those best practices coming from them because they are not looking for competent people. They're looking for the people they can make commission.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying. So when you talk about the prime vendors, it doesn't work like this. When you say like the company pays $70, they cut 30 to put in their pocket. It doesn't work like this. They are cost plus. So the prime vendor, say Wipro, for example, hiring to work in this company, Bank of America, for example. Bank of America pay Wipro $70. Wipro pay you the $70. They don't put the extra. They have cost plus, 70 plus. The plus will go to the company. So Bank of America actually pay for this position 70. You're getting the 70. Now, when you go from Wipro to the subs that try to cut from that, they will give you 40 and then...
So how Wipro will make money then?
It's a cost plus.
Give me an example, like what is the plus part?
The plus part, like Bank of America will pay Wipro for administration fees for this. I used to work in a company like this.
So that's even, if you're going to work for a consulting firm, that is way more reliable than working for mom and pop shops.
Absolutely. I was working for a company like this. So we were getting employees to work for the US government, and whatever amount of money they pass to us, we pass to that employee, but the company will pay us administration fees and a lot of things, and it can add up.
So when you go to interviews these days, let's say we've been all the way through from the layoff, reset yourself, applying for jobs, passing the recruiters. Now you're in the interviews. What are the common mistakes people make in the technical interviews, whether it's from Zoom or in person?
Not being prepared for the interview, not being friendly, I would say. I mean it. I saw a lot of people when they go to interview.
Define not being friendly.
So recently I've been interviewing people for a position in our company. So some people, they are like rude. I'm trying to find a person for this position, and then I'm interviewing them, but they were like, okay, I know what you talk about, so don't ask me this question. They give you this feeling. But I want to ask you, when I ask this question, they don't know the answer. And I found a lot of people like this. People say on their resume they have 7, 10 years of experience, and they actually have it because they've been working with the same company that I know for 10 years. And they say they know how to do automation and all that. But then I started asking this simple question. Well, I started from the difficult one. I saw they don't know the answer to these. And then I went to the simplest questions. They don't know the answer. Even the logic for programming, if statement, they don't know the logic behind if, else if, how it works. They don't know the logic.
I also think this years of experience is like really vague term and it's overrated. For example, I would say Ford is a great company. It's at least 100 years old company.
Yeah.
Tesla, I don't know, maybe less than 10, 15 years that we started knowing Tesla. But Tesla has more value in the market, right? SpaceX, for example, is doing way better than many companies, right? So I'm just saying there are people that they really have like 15 years experience, for example, working for United States Postal Office's IT department, doing some job in there. So it's a government job. It's a safer. You never run out of budget. If you run out of budget, the government will bill it. And at some point, those people need to go to market. Though they have 15 years experience, they have no clue what the hell is going on in the real marketplace.
Yeah.
Now, can you tell me that a person works for a startup, right? Doing all the job from coding to testing to deployment, right?
Yeah.
Even doing some BA job.
Yeah.
Now, this guy is working so hard in this fast-paced environment, sharp. I would choose like 10 out of 10 times from this guy working for a startup for 1 year than somebody work for a project for 15 years. And he's just like, he doesn't know what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
That's why it's hard to measure with the years of experience.
Let me give you a live example. When I graduated from college, I had civil engineering background. I had master's degree in civil engineering, but that's irrelevant. I applied for a job as a civil engineer, and I went to the company back then. There were a whole bunch of people there sitting, waiting for the interview. And all of them are much older than me. They're like my father's age. You can tell those people, they have 15, 20, 25 years of experience in the civil engineering. I went for the recruit manager, and he asked me questions, technical questions about civil engineering. And then he called me back. He said, you got the job. I was surprised, to be honest, because I have no chance. One day I was sitting with him. I asked him a question. I said, why did you choose me? I was sitting with you. My knowledge is not the same like all those people sitting outside. And they're all willing to accept the salary. Why you chose me? He said, I saw you eager to learn. I saw in you a passion when you are talking in your voice for what you want to do. Those people, they might go to the site for 15, 20 minutes, and then they go back home, spend the rest of the time with their family or doing nothing. But I know you've been on the site from morning until night. He heard from other people that I've been on the site the entire time. So he said, I made the right choice.
Yeah, I think this is prime example of your past performance can't guarantee your future performance.
Yeah.
When I came to US, I used to go to this DVD store called Blockbuster. And it's always painful because my kids want to watch certain cartoons, animations that I rented, and always I have to pay the late fee. And I realized that they make money from late fees with this different story.
Yeah.
But the thing is this, right? They were very successful. Netflix came, killed the business. And I can give you a zillion example for that. Nokia was a great company. iPhone killed it. I think the past performance cannot guarantee you the future performance.
Exactly.
You have to always, if you're a company, you have to innovate.
Yeah.
If you're a person, you also have to innovate. As a person, to innovate is reinvent yourself, like evolve yourself over time, and always learning, always eager to learn. I think it's about mindset.
Yeah.
Then the capacity. People, they see that you want to learn. They want to give you a chance.
Like you mentioned earlier, a person who's been doing all the job in the company, testing, working as a PO, as a PA, everything, all over the place. You want that person.
Absolutely.
I do have that person
in the company.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And one of the things I wanted to mention about looking for a company, say you got 3 offers. Which one would you choose? what would be your mindset? 3 offers, same position, same salary.
No, the number one thing I'm going to look for, I'm going to act behalf of the audience.
Yeah.
Of course, money is number one.
Same money.
Same money, then location.
All remote.
Okay, benefit.
All same benefits.
Same benefit. I don't know, maybe company culture. What would you look for?
I would go search on the company, do my research on the company. How long this person work in this company? How long this person will work in this company? These managers, for example, they're going to interview. You're going to go for the interview with, or you did the interview with. How long this person work in this company? If I see one person work for 2 weeks, 5 months, 6 months, and everyone work in this company for a short time, I wouldn't want to work with this company. Amazon, for example, their turnover rate is 150%. That means they are changing their staff 150% every year. Every year. But if this company, I see those people been working for 15, 20 years in the same company constantly, it's a job stability. That's what I would go for.
That is very interesting. Let me just clarify. So I have 3 job offers, and whoever interviewed me, obviously if you have one, take it, it's a good job.
Yeah.
But if you have just 3 offers, you would choose the one based on, probably you go to their LinkedIn profile, the employees who made the hiring decision, interviewed you, your future colleagues, and see how long they have been working for the company.
Yeah.
If it's all like few months, less than a year, you know this company is growing, it's a good sign, but at the same time, you don't see the ability. But versus in another company that you see people working there for 5 years, 6 years, you know this company, they're good at retaining their talent. And you would say, if I work for this company, this guy worked there for 7 years, this guy worked there for 6 years, at least I'm going to work for there for 5 years, or next 5 years, I'm pretty safe. Is that the decision-making point?
So why did we decide to move with my wife's job right now? She got the job, we have to move from wherever we live to different state, different city, somewhere completely different. Because I know when she worked in that company before, her manager was there in the company for 24 years. Her colleagues, testers, she was working there for 13 years.
13 years.
Other managers been there since the 90s. This company, that means once she start working there and she's going to perform better than everyone else there, I know, then it's a job stability. She's going to be there for a long time.
That's how you made decision.
That's how I made decision.
I knew that your wife had another offer as well. We talked about it.
Yeah.
So she kind of passed on that one. So she accepted this particular one.
Yeah, because it's of a
This was the part that I never learned completely something new today from you.
Yeah.
Okay, now, I was just kidding that my top priority is money, location, and benefit. I would also, when I accept multiple job offers, because this is my mindset, some of the best thing that I have learned is through working for amazing people, amazing company.
Yeah.
And many people, they look at companies as paycheck, they earn. But what I look at is earn and learn at the same time. Because I'm never the same when I work for a project. So the medical tech company I work for was very inspiring. The CEO was very inspiring person, very hardworking person. And he created this learning organization. Yeah. So the things I learned from that company today, I use in my company. Yeah. Today, I use in my management. So I would say on top of like money, benefits, salary, location, there's lots of metrics. Yeah. One of the most important things I would look for personally is what can I learn from this company?
And the other thing you want to know, if this CEO, for example, I went for an interview recently with a company and then I look at the CEO. He's the one that interviewed me, the last interview. He finished college with IT, computer science, and he had master's degree in computer science. So this person, he knows exactly what's going on. When you talk in front of the CEO, he knows exactly what you're talking about. If you talk to a person who's completely non-technical, completely 100%, they have no idea what you're talking about. Even if you face a challenge, you have no idea. My current company, I have manager. My manager is amazing. He is a very technical person. He tried to help me, even though I didn't even have a one-on-one meeting with him yet. He tried to help me with some APIs, and he was a very technical person. I like to work with the people like this. I would rather work with a person who is a very technical person rather than a person who doesn't know anything.
I would say they're saying that you're average of your 5 good friends, and I would say maybe at the same time you're average of 5 colleagues if you work with all A players. Yeah. Even not everybody is the top competent technical, we all evolve. Yeah. Even that you're the best person in this company, you go to another company, you're going to become a B player because that company's standard is much higher. But I would say always working for A players, even though you're B plus, whatever, C, there's more likely you're going to become A player. So choosing those teams is also important, I guess.
They will know how much you're working. Like when you say, I made a breakthrough, they know you actually made a breakthrough, not only based on your word, because they know what you did.
So how long have you been working for your new company? Right?
6 months.
6 months.
Yeah.
There's different approaches when people starting their new job, and it's a natural human tendency.
Yeah.
In the first 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, they do their very best to impress everyone in the company. They work so hard producing, I don't know, I would say instead of 100%, they try to produce 160%. So what was your strategy when you joined the company? How do you get started?
My performance is the highest throughout the entire time I'm working for the company. I don't give this company the best in first 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days, and then I slow down. I work yesterday, for example. I was working yesterday until 8 o'clock. I started working at 8:30 in the morning. I was working until 8 o'clock. I had some challenge. I know I can just leave it. I continue on Monday, but I wanted to fix the challenge before I turn off my computer. So I report on my timesheet 8 hours, but I actually work for almost 12 hours.
So your performance is consistent. You don't work first 30 days harder than just slow down later.
Yeah, if you contact my previous manager, for example, if I want any recommendation from my manager, she will give you the highest recommendation about me because my performance was consistent.
Do you also, like, for example, let's say you talk about your work performance part. So you put like very consistent, high quality work starting from day one. You don't wait. But in terms of human communications, connections, what do you do from that perspective in terms of establishing relationship, or you don't just care? Like, give me the code, let me work on it. I'm done. Timesheet, right? Fill the timesheet. What do you do from that perspective in terms of work relationship?
I believe work relationship is very important to have your best image in the company. So if you are a person, I had a colleague in my previous company. When I ask him a question, he responds with yes or no. That means I'm not going to ask this colleague again. Sometimes I have to. I literally have to. And to give you an example, and it was the worst answer I ever got in my life, I would say. We had a process to reset a password. It has to be done in the back end, and he know how to do it. So I sent him a long message. I want to learn how to reset this because it keep happening. This password keep locking. I need show me how to fix it myself, how to find it in the back end, so I can do it. You know what was his response?
What?
He sent me a new password.
Why he doesn't want to share?
He doesn't want to teach. He wants to have the knowledge only for himself. One time, my manager, she made a meeting with him to show us how to do the YAML files and something in the pipelines. He kept asking, why you want to learn? Why you want to know? Why you want to learn? Why you want to know? At the end of the meeting, and it was a recorded meeting, at the end of the meeting, my manager was there. I told her he didn't want to teach me. He certainly looks like. He wants to have all the knowledge for himself because I'm the only one. When the company needs something, I know everything. I'm completely different. Someone asks me a question, I don't respond with yes or no. I respond with complete description, even making a call, sharing my screen, show them what to do exactly. So I'm a person who would, if someone have a question, will they reach out to me?
So you become a go-to person.
Yes.
By being very useful and helpful for your colleagues.
Yes.
Versus there are people that are insecure, I would say.
Yeah.
It's insecurity. You being confident, say, hey, no, you want to learn this? Absolutely, no problem. Let me teach you. So that comes from confidence.
Yeah.
And also now, while you're giving others, it's like, for example, if you have a pile of horse crap, you're going to attract flies. But if you're a flower, you're going to attract bees and butterflies.
Yeah.
Do you want to attract flies or you want to attract butterflies? I think it's a totally different thing. So there are some people, they are like flowers. They attract bees and butterflies. I would say you should become that person at work versus the guy who is like insecure, I don't want to teach you, I don't want to share with you. Those people, if I have those kind of people in the company, for example, always becoming the bottleneck, everything has to come to that person. If the business project depends on one person, my number one thing in my mind is, okay, I need to get rid of this person because it's not because I don't trust him, I don't like him.
Yeah.
It's because he's human.
Yeah.
He might get into accident. He might get sick. He might just say one day, wake up, Kuzat, I got a better offer from different company. Now I'm screwed.
Yeah.
So therefore, you don't want to, as a company, from a strategic perspective, you don't want to rely on one person in a single operation.
Yeah.
I think whether it's from sharing your knowledge perspective, whether from the company strategy perspective, it's always what you do is the right thing to do.
Correct. Yeah. I like to do the right thing. If I'm not secure about my job, I don't want to work here. I want to give as much as I can, not only to the company or my colleagues too. When I got this news, at that time, I had one of my colleagues, she was a manual tester, and I was teaching her to do automation. So I texted her the second day after the news. I said, I received this news, you probably haven't heard, but I have 2 more months at the company. Use me as much as you can to learn while I'm here. This is exactly what I told her. I literally said, use me to learn as much as you can while I'm here. And she made her first pull request. She was so happy, and probably I was more happy than her.
Yeah, plus I would say, how do you know somebody is master what they do? They can teach anyone that knowledge in a very simple way, that you know that guy's a master. And sometimes to become master, you have to teach. Teaching is the best way to learn.
Exactly.
Anything I taught to anyone, I never forget.
Yeah.
So I'm very selfishly, I would share my knowledge. You see, the world is interesting. You think that you're helping someone while you're doing favor, right? You're teaching someone technical knowledge, right? You're doing them favor, right? It's interesting. You're doing yourself favor.
Yeah.
The best way of being selfish is helping others, because while helping others, you're helping yourself. I run this tech education company for past 9 years. Before that, I have 4 years experience working for tech companies in the tech projects. And during that time, I generally felt bad for people not making enough money. I see someone working for Panera Bread, for example. I remember a person, he was so positive.
Yeah.
I don't know, he was getting paid for maybe $10 an hour at that time, but he was working as if he's getting $100 an hour, smiling, communication. I was like, man, this guy is like wasted in this cashier position, right? I took him on the side. I was like, listen, bro, Panera is the company I look up to. I want to get a job one day.
Yeah.
Today I work for a tech company with like 4 times more salary. Let me tell you how you do it. So I was teaching genuinely because I felt bad for people.
Yeah.
And then once I started this tech education company, I already have like 4 years of experience teaching people have no clue how to code.
Yeah.
And then I realized, okay, I thought I was doing favor to people. I didn't know that I was doing favor to myself.
Exactly.
Like lessons learned. So that's why, because of being selfish, I always want to share my knowledge.
Well, sharing your knowledge, always the right way to learn or not to forget. Because even though you're using some tools for a certain thing, but when you teach, you're going to get into the tools that you don't need right now, you're not using. So you get to remember it always. You keep your information fresh all the time.
So your current job, did you say it's been 6 months?
Yeah, 6 months.
Yeah, it's been 6 months, right? Is that remote?
It's remote.
So in our company, we do have some human-to-human interaction time. So other than work, it creates bond and it makes your relationship better.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that's also important. When you work over Zoom, how do you manage your work relationship? Like you don't have happy hours, you don't have tea time, coffee time. Even if you work for in a building, sometimes people in the cafeteria, they eat their lunch together. They have like non-work related communication, which makes you human.
Yeah.
How do you create human relationship over Zoom?
When you talk to a person, let's talk about my previous company, not the current one, because I work for a longer time. So when I talk with a developer, for example, and then we were talking about what we are doing work-wise, and then when we're done, we start talking about things unrelated, about our families. I want to get to know those people I'm working with on a personal level rather than just a person, his name this and he's doing this. So we start talking about personal level, and every meeting take extra 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
5-10 minutes.
5-10 minutes talking about this stuff. Sometimes get longer. We get to know each other better. Talk about our kids, what our kids are doing. He mentioned one time that he bought this grow-at-home mushroom kit for his son, and he was doing this. He was so happy about it. And then I did mine. I bought one from Amazon. I showed my kids, and we shared pictures of our mushrooms, what we got eventually. This is just an example. So this is the human interaction. You don't only just talk about work the entire time. Take these extra few minutes to talk about personal things, to get to know people. If they're willing to share, Some people, they don't want to share. They just want to, okay, I'm done with this meeting. I'm done. Bye-bye.
I think take it with grain of salt, but I would say people like that, like very transactional. I did my job. I wrote my code. I checked in my code and don't bother me. Those are the first people they'll be gone from the company. If you do have to cut the cost, you're not cutting purely based on the performance of that person. Performance is not only technical contribution.
Yeah.
It's also your relationship with others. Some people, I feel like they think this is 100% rational decision.
Yeah.
It's not rational. Your relationship with other team members is very crucial for you to be successful in this company.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember one time the big manager, my manager's manager, she was going on maternity leave, and the last day of her work before she go on this leave for 3 months, we started talking. I was talking about my kids, and she has a kid that's 3 years old, and then she's giving birth to a new one. And I said, my kids are exactly the same. The difference in age between them, 3 years, and this is what happened between my kids versus my brother kids. They were completely different. They had a jealousy issue. So this was an interaction that happened almost 2 years ago, but she kept remembering it. I mean, she even mentioned it to my manager right before I left the company. She said, I still remember that conversation with Duraid when we were talking about this issues. She liked it.
I think it's a very interesting time. Yeah. Yesterday I was looking at this Google, it's called Gemini Pro, I guess.
Yeah.
So Microsoft, they have GitHub Copilot and it's coding assistant, and you do your job way better, faster than before as a developer. And Gemini is coming, and God knows there's going to be more tools coming. I feel like in terms of technicality, the generative AI for software engineering will become equalizer, which means that, let's say I'm in the Ferrari and I have a guy who is like a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
He's in the Ferrari. And really when we were racing, his body, his muscle, he's been training in the gym for the next, past 6 years. It really doesn't make any difference because we have the same vehicle, right? So it's equalizer. We're in the same highway. I think in terms of when generative AI is going to take care of lots of coding challenges, really what's going to stand out is going to be your human interaction with others, right?
Yeah.
Your communication, your relationship. That is something that AI cannot do. ChatGPT is not going to talk about how's your kids.
Yeah.
ChatGPT is not going to talk your wedding engagement.
Yeah.
So I think that is something that people need to pay attention, especially when the generative AI is going to take over lots of technical challenges, I believe.
So one thing a lot of people are afraid of when they talk about the generative AI, that it might take our jobs away. It might be true in some companies like Apple, for example. I had a phone, had an issue with the battery. I went to Apple store. They hooked it to their machine, and then they had this analyzer, and they told me your phone has no problem. I said, no, but my phone has a problem. I put two phones next to each other. I checked them together at the same time. This one, the battery was going down 30% faster than this one. And they had exactly same two phones, same apps running.
You're such a technical nerd.
I talked to the manager. I said, you cannot, I'm a tester. I know what I'm doing. So when your app telling me this is not correct, your app is not correct, you need a human interaction. Human interaction is essential because I know from human interaction, this is failing. It will work to enhance our work. Honestly, sometimes, even though it's called intelligence, is not very smart. So this generative AI, they need the correct prompt. If you give them the correct prompt, they will give you something. However, they're not always correct. I saw some code that I got from ChatGPT, and I look at the code. This code is not going to work. I know. It's wrong. And it's fundamentally wrong.
So if I don't know coding, let's say my foundation is not good, and ChatGPT is just like you said, you take a look and you said, this is wrong.
Yeah.
If I was a person with lack of technical skill set, I'll just copy paste, maybe destroy my applications. I think, I'm not going to mention the name. One of our alumni, recently he mentioned that in his company, they recently had huge production issues. Why? Because developers, it's human nature. When ChatGPT can do it, why would you do it?
Yeah.
So they were using ChatGPT to generate lots of tasks and copy pasting from that. And they had a huge issue in the production. They're now they're really increasing the measurement against using generative AI. I do think that using has a risk, right? Using generative AI. They're not perfect yet. The second part is you need to have the foundation to be able to tell what's wrong, what's right, right? If you don't have the foundation, you cannot make the assessment. I'm going to give you a story. My dad, so we're in Central Asia and our country is occupied by China. So we're a minority. There was a kid, he was probably 16 years old at the time. He got arrested by the police, by the Chinese police, and got beaten up. So my dad took him out from the detention center and he said, this kid has no parents. His parents passed away. I'm going to adopt him. I was like, okay, because we have tradition like that. My grandfather, he had 12 orphans that he was taking care of. My dad is like, so he became my brother for a while. Later on, he left himself. He couldn't adopt himself to the family life. Interesting thing is one day, me and my parents went somewhere to a little bit far. This guy stayed home. And we got a call that he's in the ER. He's in hospital. And then we came back. I was like, what happened? This guy had a headache.
Yeah.
And he opened a drug cabinet in our house.
Yeah.
He see a bunch of medicine. And he's like, okay, I don't know which one is going to stop my headache. But if I take one each, one of them is going to stop my headache. Poor guy, right? Uneducated, poor guy. And he took the medicines one by one. He almost died. I always use this story as you need to have a context to be able to kind of understand what to take, what not to take, right?
Yeah.
If you're a developer, if you're testers, if you don't have a technical context, ChatGPT is going to give you all the medicines and you're going to take them and you're going to end up in the hospital, in quote unquote, which is the production issue recently.
Yeah.
One of our alumni's company that happened, they're losing millions of dollars because of this issue. You still have to know the foundation.
Sometimes people, they rely 100% without trusting the AI. They're going to generate the right code for them without even actually looking at the code. And it's on them. When you use AI, you have to still check after the AI. Okay, sometimes I use AI to generate code for me. I know how to generate the code myself. I can write the code. It can take me probably 20 minutes to finish the whole thing. But with the correct prompt, it will generate this code for me in a few seconds. And then once it's generated, I give exactly what I need or how I need it. When I look at the code, if something is not going to work, I change it or I tell the AI, this line of code is not going to work. And then literally I got ChatGPT, sorry, I overlooked this, and then they regenerate the code. So you have to be careful with the AI because it's not that intelligent, even though it's called intelligence.
I do think it's pretty useful on doing the repetitive tasks. For example, let's say you start working for e-commerce and you really don't have to spend time to reflect on how I'm going to strategically design the login, checkout.
Yeah.
Bro, you don't have to spend time on it because that's not, you should spend your focus and time on it because these are the things that is common sense. You don't spend strategic analysis on building login functionality. Where let ChatGPT do it, let Copilot do it. But now you have time. Use that time for creative work where ChatGPT cannot do. The generative AI is empowering us to do more creative, strategic work rather than repetitive tasks because nobody has spent strategic analysis on how to build checkout functionality, for example.
Yeah.
If you were master chef, is that Gordon Ramsay?
Yeah.
It's I'm not sure if I pronounce his last name correctly. Let's say Gordon Ramsay, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to spend your time on cutting potato. You don't want to spend your time washing dishes.
Yeah.
You really want to spend your time to create the amazing meal that nobody else can create.
Combine other people's art.
Exactly. So, but if you're a developer, if you're working in tech, that's exactly what you got to do. Let ChatGPT, generative AI, do all this repetitive work so where you can focus on create value, work on creativity, innovation. I think that's where the potential is coming from.
Yeah, I agree 100%. You need to focus your energy, but again, you have to check, even though it's a repetitive work, the checkout or the login functionality, you have to check what they did for you.
Absolutely.
You have to make sure that their work doesn't have security issue, any bugs can develop over time. So they have to check the code.
Absolutely. This generative is very general.
Yeah.
So it can write code. It will understand certain things, but I would say it may not understand industry specific. For example, if you're a law firm versus a medical firm versus an insurance firm versus a telecommunication firm, it might just give you the same answer, right? If you don't have the context.
Yeah.
Now, it depends on, now you have an industry level, healthcare industry, education industries, different industries. Now, on top of that, you will have the context of specific companies. My company is different than other companies. If you're an insurance company, Progressive is different than State Farm, right? They have different stuff. So now you have to apply the specific company's context, and then specific project contents, and then context, and then specific code base context. This layer of context, people need to understand. If you don't have the layer, you're going to make huge mistake. You're just going to copy the code from ChatGPT, just apply, it's not going to work.
It's not going to work. No.
Yeah, I do think that still people have experience, domain expertise is going to be very important in a time of generative AI.
Well, developers, it might help them sometimes with the generative AI to scan through the code, tell them what bugs might develop through their work, what anomalies it can have. So this is what I would think the generative AI is important for. I want the developer to do their own coding and use the ChatGPT or Copilot or whatever generative AI to scan through the code and tell them this can be a serious problem in the future. So this will have their code more clean, bug, let's say.
I would say, imagine you're 100 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And you want to learn carpenting and some other skill set. You would never think about if 20 years later the job will exist. You don't have such concern 100 years ago.
Yeah.
And then that time frame of my job will exist became shorter and shorter. And back then, maybe 20 years ago, people graduate from college, they can use that degree for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
And then that started becoming shorter and shorter. They realize they're graduating from college and they don't have hands-on experience. The market is shifting pretty quick. Now they spend 4 years and the market is changing every year. And that became a huge issue for people with hundreds of thousands of student loan and have a college degree, but don't have the competency and skill set that's required by today's market, which was already a problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, with generative AI, lots of people are asking, forget about 4 years. Will my job exist a year from now? It became huge anxiety for people. So I would say, whether you're cashier, whether you're bookkeeper, accountant, I don't know, there's lots of work. Analyst, for example. I heard McKinsey is really suffering because their job was doing consulting and lots of things that companies are now figuring out how to use generative AI. They got a proposal from McKinsey, they put it on ChatGPT, they do a few prompts, they get analysis from McKinsey and they put it on ChatGPT, do a few prompts. Now I think companies like even McKinsey is suffering because they were doing an analytical work. Are you in the similar feeling that a year from now, 2 years from now, AI will disrupt your job? What are you going to do about it?
The world is evolving. And like you mentioned, you used to go to Blockbuster to get videos. And then a few years after that, we had Netflix. And I still remember when first I signed up for Netflix, they would just send you a DVD, you watch, when you finish, you send back to send you another one from your list and all that. They didn't have any online library or any of that. And then they start to have online library, and then Amazon copy them, and then other companies start to copy, and everyone, now everything is online. It killed cable. Not only killed blockbusters, but
Nobody.
I had cable. I was going for all the premium channels like HBO and all that. I don't have to have cable now. This is $150 a month. I can cut from my expenses. I can just watch these online whenever I want. I don't have to go on TV to watch a movie from the middle because it's already started. I can just start from the beginning with a click of a button.
Individualized now.
So
You watch whatever you want, whenever you want,
exactly.
wherever you want.
The point is, it removed that old business, but creating a new one. So remove that stores, not only Blockbuster, there were many like Blockbusters, but that created a new business. And then the other businesses had to adapt. I remember the Red Box, where you go to any supermarket, you can just rent.
And I remember in Safe, you have to insert, you get DVD from Safeway.
Yeah, exactly. And then they also went ahead and then they started their own online business where you can rent online instead. But it wasn't very successful. So they didn't go anywhere with that because they were competing against other giants. So they have to adapt. Companies like that, you either adapt to the changes or you're not going to survive in the market. So losing these jobs created these jobs. So if you're not willing to learn the new technology, you're not going to develop yourself. So this is why I say life is constantly developing. If I lose my job in IT, that's not the end of the world. I go learn something else and do this other business. And IT is going to be always there, always. Because everything going through the internet, before We just used email and go reading the news. Now we do everything online.
From therapy
From shopping
to shopping, entertainment.
We used to go to mall to do the shopping all the time. Now we can just do it. Amazon, they have this great service. They go try before you buy. They send you clothes. Like, for example, you want to buy clothes. They send it to you. You try before you buy.
That's crazy.
Then if you want to keep it, you pay for it. If not, you have the return box. They send someone to your house to take it from you for free. So killed some businesses, but created other businesses. Now it's all online. So it's all in the IT.
So I guess your suggestion is just like the companies kept innovating, they remain in the business. If you're an individual, you have to innovate yourself, which means that keep learning the new skills. There's no other choice.
Absolutely. When testing was starting many years ago, it was all manual. And then when they started to do automation, they came up with this Selenium tool. And then other tools that start to come up in the market similar to Selenium. And people were doing automation with the UI. And then they came the API part. Okay, API is happening in the back end. How we do it, teach the testers how to test the API because it's very important. This is the first gateway to the company. It's a security thing. So learn API, and then you do API. I went deep into API when I started first learning about API because I know this is the future. So now in my company, I do all APIs. I do both UI and API, but I specifically told my manager I like to learn API. That was many years ago. So now I'm proficient in API. I can do anything with API. In my current job, the first challenge I had is with an API because they want me to do something with the API that we had no documentation. I had to create these payloads from scratch by myself. I was doing what the developer was doing because developers were not very helpful, but I was doing it myself. So, and my manager understand the challenges. This is why when I finished, I did what they want me to do. It was a huge success. There was an email was sent to the upper management appraising me for what I did. 4 months. I was 4 months in the company only.
That's great. It's like your journey in the entire came to this country as an immigrant, start your life from scratch, and then you break into IT.
Yeah.
You have a successful life. You had to learn lots of new skills and you're still learning new skills. But if you were the person starting from scratch, when I look back in my life, I feel pure joy sometimes. I feel lots of joy, but at the same time, I was like, okay, I could have done better. These are the area that I would be much more successful today if years ago I did X, Y, Z. When you look back, do you have anything that you recommend people would say if you had to start from scratch? What would you tell your younger self?
Well, first of all, it's never too late to learn something new. What past is past. Now is we're in the future. So I could have done this. I could have done that. I could have invested in Netflix 10 years ago. I would be super rich now. I could have bought shares in the cryptocurrency, Bitcoin 15 years ago. I will be a billionaire now. I could have, yeah. But now we are here in this current time. And then we utilize what we have. We look at what we can do, what we want to do, and spend 110% of our efforts to do it. You know what I did first thing I got when I got laid off? What would you think I told the manager or the bigger manager? What do you think? Did I send a message or email to ask why? I sent a thank you message. I sent a thank you for letting me be part of your company. I learned a lot throughout the years in your company. I actually used ChatGPT to rephrase some of this message, but ChatGPT came with a beautiful message. I couldn't even help it. But I said a thank you note. Instead of being rude, you fired me, I don't like you, to hell with you. No, you have to always be good with people. Don't burn bridges, because you never know when you want those people, when you need them again. My previous manager, she reached out to me 2 days ago. She was sending me a message, asked me if I'm looking for another job. Well, I'm not. But you don't burn bridges. You never know, they can come back to you. This is one of the things I would recommend to people, and it's never too late. You might be 30, 40, 50. It's never too late to learn IT. It's not difficult. You would think it's difficult. It's not. When I started teaching my wife how to do the IT, she didn't know anything about IT before. All she knew how to do, go to do shopping. But I started teaching her. how to do coding, how to do Selenium, backend and all that. And then she started to look online. She learned by herself. She constantly learning. Until last night, she was watching videos, learning different things by herself. She learned more than me, to be honest. She had more time. But life is constant journey of learning new technology, new things. If you say, I know everything, you don't know anything. Literally.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. We had a fantastic conversation. I hope to see you again in our show.
I really enjoyed our conversation. Thank you, Kazar.
Thank you. Appreciate it.